Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, lesser known classic. This is episode number 3294 and Doubleshot number 3288. I have basically two trades from Image here. For one from the Skybound Studio, the other one is a creator-owned one. The first one is The Walking Dead Compendium 3. Why am I not showing the cover up per se? Because there's two very important characters who are on the cover who make their debut in these issues. They're collecting this book, which this book collects issues 97 to 144. Yeah, that's how much this book covers. So, basically, here's what happens. So, we get the build-up of the mysterious Negan. Basically, where Rick's, and of course Rick had to deal with his people. It's like, give us your supplies. They're like, no. So he kills a couple of them, beats the crap out of them up. And then eventually, while visiting the hilltop, then they're stopped. They're told to get on their knees and drop their weapons. And here comes Negan. As before this, there is a guy with a burn mark on his face. This actually is Robert Kirkman bringing the character from the TV show, Dwayne. Probably by far the most popular character in this whole entire show. People love that character. The character's so popular, Robert Kirkman put him in the comic book. And then we show off the debut of Negan. And there he is, right in the cover, smiling with Lucille. Oh boy, I have seen people cosplay as Negan. And I do know the fact that in the TV show, he is played by the awesome Jeffrey Dean Morgan, which I heard he got tons of praise for his performance as Negan, despite the fact the episode he debuted in got a lot of flack for a lot of the gore, a lot more gory than usual. So Dwayne himself kills basically the character Abraham, who debuted around issue 50. It was the government guy. And then, of course, Negan. Now, in the show, he killed Abraham. In the comic, he did not. That was Dwayne. He did that. So then, of course, he does this thing of, like, because of the fact he dares stand against him, it's like, he does eeny, miny, mo, and he lands on Glenn. Well, then he proceeds to take his bout, Lucille, apparently named after one of his wives, because he's got multiple wives. That basically the reason why Dwayne's got a burn mark on his face. It's revealed later on because he attempted to take one of Negan's wives, who's actually his wife. So his punishment was, again, iron to the face. Yes, seriously. Negan does have standards, per se. It's shown later on he does not stand people who attempt to rape women. Like he sees one of his guys trying to rape a woman. He punishes the guy. Like, he basically wants to be natural, per se, despite the fact that he's stealing people's wives. But he's totally against rape, which is interesting for his character, given the fact he's a freaking dirtbag. Oh, and what does he do to Glenn? Takes the bat and proceeds to beat the crap out of him to death. He basically sees his bat, which is covered in barbed wire, smash Glenn in the head, squishing part of it. It's like, oh my gosh. And Kirkman allowed Charles Adler to show this thing. Apparently the show was a lot more gory than this. And he dies. And Maggie, his wife, which is later, this is actually a little bit later, she's actually going to be pregnant with Glenn's child, despite the fact they actually adopted Sophie. So then basically so she's angry at this. Also around the same period of time, like basically not angry at this, Rick and Andrew sleep together. Yep, they kiss before and then they sleep together and they're pretty much basically not in front of the book. Now, does Rick have a problem with the fact she's got a scar across her cheek? No. He just fell for her, and basically she ends up staying in this house for the remainder of the series. So, then of course, throughout this, basically, they introduce this character called Jesus. That's what the guy, of course, this guy is actually also gay. Yep, he's with a guy named Eric, who's his boyfriend, or at least life partner. And he's like, okay, with all the stuff with Negan, he's like, time to introduce you to Ezekiel. And he takes him to a place known as the Kingdom, which apparently it's based around a school with tents. But apparently, get this, if it gets cold outside, he takes people inside the school to basically stay warm for the winter, and they come out. That's actually not a bad idea to do, especially if they have working furnace. And we're introduced to Ezekiel. He's this tall, black guy with dreadlocks, and he's got a freaking tiger. You're like, what? A tiger? Yes. I'm like, that is interesting. It probably makes him the first character to come with an animal. Like a freaking tiger. Yes. Also, when he meets Mahone, he immediately falls for her. And of course, he starts hitting on her. And she's against it first. But then it's later shown these two actually sleep together. Yep. And throughout this, despite the fact we have Rick W's relationship with, of course, Andrea, Maggie decides to take Sophia and move to the Hilltop. Where shows the fact the guy in charge of the place, Gregory, he's a complete coward. Who basically riles in fear. And then later on, of course, Rick, the Hilltop, and the Kingdom, along with Alexandria, begin their war with Negan and the Saviors. That's what they call themselves. And it's the second conflict in the entire series. Yes, the second ever conflict. Well, there's shots fired, they throw in zombies. Like, it is so epic throughout this. And at one point, Gregory is trying to turn the Hilltop against Rick. But then Maggie proceeds to tell him that he's a freaking coward and takes over the Hilltop. Also proceeds to punch him too. He sees her on post-time skip. Yeah, there's a time skip of this thing. So, then after a long while, and of course it's when he found something when the guy tried to rape a woman, Rick proceeds to capture him. And the Saviors basically turn against Rick, they turn against Negan, and Dwayne takes over as their leader of that particular group. And Negan is taken to custody. He's told, you're going to rot in jail to your old man. Because of somewhat of a terrible scumbag he is, despite the fact he doesn't like rapists. So then he's taken to a jail cell. And then, of course, basically they're kind of a good unit. They're basically the four areas. You have Alexandria, the Hilltop, the Saviors, which I think have a different name now, and the Kingdom. And they're together. And then we have a time skip. I'm guessing about a year or two passes by after the Savior War, because Rick has a full beard again. First time since around the first couple years of the series, he's had a full freaking beard. You see him growing a little bit. Here it's full beard. He's basically recognized as the leader of Alexandria. We actually have patrols just taking care of zombies in certain areas. What you heard of as walkers in the series. And Carl has actually aged up. Yeah, they actually age him up here. And of course he calls Andrea Mom because unofficially, of course, basically Andrea is kind of Rick's life partner at this point in time. Now, how much time passes by? Given how much older Carl is here, I'm guessing probably 2 years. I'm guessing because it's basically more developed now. And after a while, he wants to go live in the Hilltop to be with Sophia. And also, we're introduced to a group known as the Whisperers. Yeah, this leads to another conflict in the series, the Whisper War, which that will not happen here, that happened in another book. So, then he meets this girl who actually prior to the war with the Saviors, it's like Rick gets in the whole game of basically having sex in the series. Mahone gets it too. But aside from those two, mostly everyone else has stopped. Merzia got killed during... actually, she broke up with Abraham. She's with somebody else. So, basically, and then post-time skip, Carl has his first time with the daughter of the leader of the Whisperers. Negan is shown, where apparently he has grown a full beard, And then he seen later on where everybody's pointing guns at him, where he proceeds to also Rick is also giving food, despite that he has a job to do as leader of the community. Probably just keep an eye on Negan. Where also grew his hair out too, so Negan proceeded to get bathed and get a nice shave and a good haircut too. He doesn't know it's bad per se because Dwayne took it. Yes, Dwayne took it as a spoil of war. So, the Whisperers are basically people who kill walkers and skin them and wear their skins as a way to blend in with the Whisperers. And also Mahone is basically, it's a misser. Apparently, it's shown that you see her on a boat a little bit later. And the reason why, because apparently she decided to go overseas. The reason for this, not very clear. Also, Ezekiel has got her sword. As for why she left her sword behind, which is unclear, because generally since she showed up in the series, she's always had her katana with her, and for some reason Ezekiel has it, and they're an item at this point in time. So then the Whisperers basically gather up, apparently the area which they control, which apparently was a whole lot of these walkers, a lot of these zombies. And to prove how serious they are, at the end of this book, there is shown a line of heads on sticks. And I saw this like, oh my gosh. Like, seeing this is kind of gross. Seeing this, where this woman has taken the time to take a group of about 20 people and proceed to chop all their heads off. The reason for this? To prove a point. Also, Gregory tried to poison Maggie, so Maggie proceeded to have him executed for attempting to kill her. And after he's executed by hanging, yes, hanging, because they don't have the electric chair, they don't have lethal injection, so a hanging is the most useful thing to have. And plus, they can't use the blades to behead the guy because that would be too gross. Hanging is probably the most sensible thing they could do, and they use not a hangman's thing, they use a tree. And they did this, she ordered this because there was no reason to keep him alive anymore, because he actually did try to kill her. From what I can tell, the Hilltop didn't have an issue with this at all, given the fact she's a very effective leader. But she doesn't want to do this again, but she did for Gregory because he's a freaking dick, and he's a coward. So... oh, and the heads thing. So, we see that Rosita, she got beheaded. But the last of these heads, very few of the people have been seeing the whole series, the last head is Ezekiel. Yeah, he's been beheaded. Which, kind of surprising. The fact they killed him off, despite the fact they just introduced it. Like, he had not been in the book not very long, and he's already dead. Yeah, seriously, he's already dead. But overall, really good book. I like the storytelling here, but good gosh, some of the gore in this is just outrageous per se. Yep, I give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. So let's look at about 49 issues up for review for this whole series. Yep. Next up we have is Hack Slash Omnibus Volume 2. This collects the first 17 issues of the Hack Slash short-lived ongoing series, along with the first annual. Of course, Tim Seeley is a writer here, with, of course, Sean K. Dobe on the artwork. A lot of these names basically are nods to movies per se. You have Gross Anatomy, obviously not the Grey's Anatomy, Shadow the Devil, Love Stories, Double Date, Tub Club, Little Children, Coldest Death, Murder/Suicide, Interlude, Over the Rainbow, and Cassie the Zombie Reanimator. Yeah, the Reanimator from the Reanimator movies, played by Jeffrey Combs. One of his most notorious characters. He played his whole entire career. That's issues 15 to 17. It's a very interesting one for that one, because for that one, basically, Cass is looking for her parents, and apparently Herbert West basically knows where they are. And I think, as far as I can tell, this is one of two crossovers he ever did. The other, of course, with Ash from Evil Dead. So, some of these stories here tend to be very sporadic. Like, they bring in the character from the Chucky crossover, who ends up basically as unemployed, so he stays with a girl throughout the whole book. They bring up basically a plot thread from the one-shots where there was this sort of lesbian cult, which basically, like, involves using box cutters and slit their arms to basically make people more powerful. It's a very gross story. And also, this also brings up Cassie being a lesbian in the book. So Gross Anatomy is basically just Cassie being used as bait to lure out a skinless man. Yes, a guy with no skin. And it just to lure him out, and she becomes a bit traumatized after this, after he finally dies by being shipped out of the window. And then after he's killed, then Val has to comfort her, because of course she's very depressed after this, because she nearly died. And then we have, as for Shout at the Devil, this is basically Cassie and Hack just dealing with a bunch of Rockstar stuff. Yeah, this is the Rockstar issue, where there's a little bit of like fighting a monster throughout this too. It's a very interesting issue per se. Also dealing with the Elvis impersonator. Yes, seriously. Also, these cave women in the book. As for Love Stories, this is from issue 5. Well, this book in particular is just a guy who wants to create a beautiful woman who has an ugly face. It's a very science-heavy issue, and then we have Double Date, which is a parody of Archie. Yes, Double Date is a parody of Archie, where Cassie gets loosely involved with a loose parody of Archie. I guess Tim Seale likes Archie. Oh, fun fact, did you know that Chuck Dixon himself actually wrote some Archie? And get this, his issues he wrote for Archie apparently were really good sellers for Archie because they were actually funny. And then Archie didn't invite him back to more issues because of that. You're like, really? They didn't invite him back because the book actually sold? Yes. Listen to Chuck Dixon's podcast, he brought this up. He's also a ton of issues on The Simpsons. So, then we have Tub Club. This is the lesbian cult thing. Which, fine. It's one story. Moving on, I've already discussed this already. Because it's a very, very interesting story per se. It's something that they started building the one-shots. This is a follow-up to the one-shots. And then we have Little Children, which is basically just Cassie Hack dealing with where, remember, she killed all these serial killers. And so apparently the serial killers in this one are basically just crazy kids. You don't see her kill anybody per se in this one. Then we have Coldest Dish. Yeah, running, and then basically he's put into a wood chipper. Yes, a wood chipper. Yeah, and it's a really odd issue per se. Then we have Murder/Suicide, which is best way. This is from the annual. This is Cassie Hack versus an alternate version of herself. And by the way, each issue has got a different artist on it. And there's like an alternate version who gets killed off in this issue. And there is nudity in this book. I'm not going to show it per se because I didn't want to be criticized for it. They have Interlude, where just Cassie wakes up after dealing with a monster version of milk and cheese. We tried to do something with it with a bottle, but nope, it doesn't go anywhere. Then we have the guy who's unemployed trying to sleep with the girl. And then we have Over the Rainbow, which is basically casted with a parody of Wizard of Oz, where there's a version of Dorothy, and, well, they do a parody of Wizard of Oz. Yep. I guess that Tim still likes Wizard of Oz. And I know Sally put basically have the Tin Woodsman trying to kill various actors. And this leads into the stuff with Herbert West. And that leads to the Herbert West story. And that's basically the book in a nutshell. A really fun book, per se, if you're a fan of Hack Slash. Just excellent. I give the book roughly a 9 out of 10. Still got a while to go with Hack Slash. So, now the thing with Hack Slash is that originally they were published by Devil's Due, which was a imprint of Image. That's why I included Hack Slash in here. Yep. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up we have is One Piece. Okay, thanks, you. Bye.